Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we're taking a bit of a break from the viewer contracts in order to do a science mission here, since we have a good amount of cash, and we don't really have anything that we need to spend it on right now. So we're going to hop into the VAB. I believe we already got a moon orbiter craft good to go here. Let's double check that. Let's see here. That's the Kerbal News satellite. We wanted the orbital science machine. So this is what we've got for the orbital science machine. It should have plenty of fuel to make this happen, right? Right? Yeah, it should. It definitely should. So as far as return goes, let's see. The plan is to return from like here up. And we've got 2 radial mount drogue chutes and a Mark 16 parachute. That should be fine. Plus the ablation from the heat shield and the P re-entry module. Yeah, it should be okay. We've got the inline reaction wheel. We don't have a lot of battery charge here. We've got 50, but I think that's probably enough. We could think about adding in 1 small battery here. Like that. That brings us up by 200. So that should be more than enough battery charge. Beyond that, is there anything else that we need? We don't need a powerful antenna for this. We'll have crew aboard. We do not need any additional science. We have all of our science on here. We've got a T400 for our second stage, which should be enough, assuming this gets us into orbit decently, and it should. Checking thrust to weight here, 1.6, and let's check our staging. Staging looks good. This is not good. This should not be here. We don't want to fire our drogue chutes when we fire our second stage. Okay, so the drogue chutes are going to go like here, and this would go here. Like that. Okay, there's the staging fixed. Now for Kerbals. We need to remove Bill, put Bob in, and we should be good to go. Let's launch this thing. I didn't even look at how much this cost. It's probably reasonably expensive, but we'll recover a decent amount of that. But we're not really going to make money from this mission. This mission is a money loser. This is about making us a bunch of science. So we're going to go into a low orbit around the moon, is the idea. We'll throttle up, SAS on, and are we ready to go? I'm just double checking everything else one more time here. Jeb and Bob, I think we're good. The main question now, I'm realizing that I did not check our mass distribution compared to our center of lift. I'm sure it's okay, right? It couldn't possibly be a problem. Definitely not. Let's go. So off we go here, and we've got quite a lot of burn time in these SRBs. They do pop us off the pad pretty quickly. We definitely want to grab our material study here. We'll reset that once we reach orbit, and we'll get additional science on differing passes here, on different passes from that. We are a little bit late on our gravity turn, and this thing's really trying to spin on us. Okay. That's exciting. We've got 18 seconds left here. Okay, we're going to hold attitude here for the time being. We've got some wiggle going on. Okay, we're going to hold prograde for the moment. SRBs are going to pop off in 2, 1, mark. Off they go. And how are we doing on apoapsis? 15 kilometers. So we could definitely use a little bit more there. We're just going to hold prograde for the moment. That wiggle I did not like. So that means that we're a little bit top heavy in terms of our controls. And we probably want some struts connecting to our outside boosters, but this is looking a little slow, if I'm honest. A little bit slow. We do still have 90 seconds of burn here. I'm not keeping with the prograde marker. We're actually... And actually, we don't need to be in this screen here because all of this is in KER now. But our apoapsis is definitely low, and we can see time to apoapsis is decreasing. So that means that we need to make our way out over this direction and push that time to apoapsis up. We don't have to move very much, but we were too aggressive on our horizontal speed there. So we definitely need to push this apoapsis time up. We need to get additional speed here, vertical speed. And this is looking somewhat better. We're still putting more speed into horizontal than vertical, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. But our apoapsis height is only 31 kilometers. We don't have enough vertical speed. I expected to have the opposite problem when we started this gravity turn, which is slightly wild to me. But okay. And we can see that we are definitely off of the prograde marker, no doubt about that. Apoapsis height is currently 41 kilometers, and if we start to have any attitude hold issues, we should head back to prograde. I think we are drifting slightly up this time. I'm going to head to prograde. We are at a decent apoapsis now. So what apoapsis are we going to target here? Well, this is burning out in 1, 0. Okay, that's not ideal for sure. We're going to target 80 kilometers here, just a very, very minor burn with this engine. Yeah, that first stage was definitely still underpowered. There's no doubt about that. Now, this is saying that this is going to be more delta V than we have. That's not technically true. I have no idea why this is saying this. It is not true. But we're just going to coast upwards, and the question is this burn time accurate? Because we're still in the atmosphere right now. I don't think it is. So I think we ignore this burn time and we re-evaluate it after we exit the atmosphere. And this number is going up because we're losing speed due to the atmosphere here. So let's just physics warp until we exit the atmosphere. We'll see what this looks like at that point. Okay. Yeah, start burn in 45 seconds. That's more like what I thought. Our delta V on this is definitely lower than I had hoped. But we can at least get some orbital science from Kerbin. We do have enough to do Moon, I think, but it would be close. It would certainly be close. We'll evaluate after we're done with this burn. So that's going to be here in 15 seconds. I'm going to warp forward a little bit. It is now currently that we need to burn. That first stage being underpowered is a problem. It's not thrust to weight. Some of it is probably just the Ascent profile and the fact that we were burning somewhat inefficiently. There's almost certainly some of that. In fact, it's pretty much all that, I think. We were really close to what we needed. So, yeah, I think it's okay. It's also clear to me that this second stage is slightly underpowered. So we need to think about doing something about that as well. So Ascent profile on the first stage, and maybe crank up the power level of it slightly. And definitely crank up the power level of the second stage. So we'll get this down to about here. This is good enough. That'll do. Now, we've got 890 meters per second. That's not really enough to go to the moon, which was what I had hoped to do. But we're going to have Bob EVA here. And Bob is going to let go. And we're going to... Come on, Bob. There you go. Reorient yourself. We're going to have Bob reset the... No, we're not going to reset this. Hang on. Let's position here. And we're going to collect all of this data. There we go. Now we're going to swap over to Bob. Bob is going to restore the Science Junior. And then we're going to open this service bay. And we're going to also restore the Mystery Goo Containment Unit. Cool. So we'll close that. And we'll head back in. The hatch is this down here, correct? Correct. Come on, Bob. There you go. You can hop back in. So now we can grab these. These are in space near. Do we want to at least go grab in space high? I think we do. So let's lock to prograde here. And let's bring this up in an elliptical orbit. Up to, what is the in space high number? Like 150, 200? I think we'll go to 300. That should be enough. There we go. We, of course, can grab this in space near data. We'll keep that, and we'll keep this. And then we can do another science reset. So we will collect all of this data here. Bob will EVA again. We will let go, and we'll head down over... Come on, Bob. There you go. Get it under control. Cool. And we will restore the Science Junior. Open our service bay. And restore the Mystery Goo containment unit. So we definitely have some tweaks to do to this vessel. No doubt about that. But we can now hop back in. There we go. And we can grab these again and store them in the re-entry module. So I definitely think that we'll do that. We'll collect them again. There we go. And Bob can EVA again and head out over this... Come on, Bob. There you go. You don't have to get your head stuck. We'll open up the service bay. This time we're going to collect the data and restore. And collect data and restore. And we'll close this, and this will be stored in our module here. Cool. There's still some data to be grabbed here, but we are now going to warp up to In Space High. There's a lot of data that we can still get from In Space High, so I think that'll be absolutely fine. Let's see here. 200. There we go. Looks like it's 250. So we'll grab our crew report, Mystery Goo observation, materials study. There we go. And we will collect all of this data. And we will have Bob EVA. We'll grab his EVA report. We'll let go. And head over and reset these again. Excellent. So we'll restore this, and this will give us a chance to test our re-entry as well. So that's absolutely fine. We'll restore both of these. We'll observe this Mystery Goo. And we will collect that data and restore. And then conduct this material study, observe the Mystery Goo. This will just keep in position. We'll collect this data, though, restore that, and conduct it again. And keep that. We don't have anywhere else to store the data, but that will still be a good chunk of data. Oh, come on, Bob. You can hop in. There you go. Cool. So there's all of that data good to go. We can close these doors. It's purely aesthetic, but we can still do it. Okay, and from here, the idea would be to warp around to the periapsis, and we would do a retrograde burn and bring ourselves back in to around 20 kilometers should be more than sufficient in theory. Something like that. Excellent. And we will warp on over. Cool. So yeah, we didn't have enough fuel to do the moon orbit that I would have liked to do, but that is partially execution and partially design. We can make some optimizations to this and continue to head out to the moon with the next iteration of it. So that would be, I think, just fine. We will continue to warp forward a little bit closer here. And this is, of course, a pure retrograde burn, so I'm just going to lock to retrograde for the time being. 3, 2, 1, and mark. Cool. So we've got a fair amount of fuel for a re-entry burn if we wanted to, but I want to actually test this as a purely ballistic re-entry. I want to see what happens if we come in reasonably controlled, but without any burns. So something kind of like this. This'll do. We're going to ditch the extra fuel in this tank. And yes, we could have made it to the moon, and we maybe even could have made it back with some proper rationing of the fuel. But I think certainly with a better ascent trajectory, we should be fine. So we're going to ditch that, and we're going to just lock to retrograde here. And I want to see how this re-entry goes. So we're going to get good science from In Space Near and In Space High of Kerbin. And we're going to get good science on the re-entry of this capsule, which we're going to be using for a little bit here anyway for our science. So we'll warp on forward. We'll hit atmosphere here. Heading over to retrograde, and we'll slow it on down. Let's see if Jeb and Bob survive. They should be fine, to be honest. Ooh, I'd like to grab that material study, but that is going to be, like, the Kerbin atmosphere stuff we're grabbing on Ascent, not Descent. It's much easier to grab on Ascent. So that'll be fine. We've got our heat shield here. We've got our heat shield on our capsule as well. So this will all be, in theory, okay. Our data is contained here and here, although there is a little bit of data in each of these locations as well. Cool. We're already decelerating. I like it. We are physics warping here, of course, and we're just going to cruise on down as quickly as we can. All of this data is looking good. We're at about 40 kilometers right now. Our periapsis is now negative, and we can see our impact time is in about 3 minutes. And that is decreasing by a decent chunk, but it's going to go back up soon. Yeah, we're still at 40 kilometers. We are decelerating nicely. I'm going to take us out of time warp here. It can get a little wonky through this stage if we're physics warping. Cool. We're at about 2 kilometers per second right now. Impact time is in about 1.5 minutes. And continuing to decrease at faster than 1 second per second, but that's fine. Under 2 kilometers per second, continuing to slow down here. 1.7 kilometers per second. So the aerobraking is definitely slowing us down. It's not tremendously fast, but it doesn't need to be. We're targeting 20 kilometers. We could have targeted it tighter, or we could have budgeted a fair amount more aerobrake. So this is kind of not exactly middle of the road. This is a slightly aggressive targeting, but I think it'll be fine. Yeah, we're already at 1.2. We're doing completely fine here. 1.1. 1 kilometer per second. Plasma sheath is going away. And the drogues will be heading out shortly. There go the drogues. And shortly after that, the main. Although this main is not wanting to be acceptable. There we go. Now the main is acceptable. We can grab our crew report and a temperature scan from here. And we'll grab ourselves an EVA report when it's safer. 300 meters per second is still not very safe. So we're now going to physics warp on down. And technically we can grab these as well, but I think we're going to be better off keeping our material study that we have, most likely. So down we go at about 100 meters per second. Drogues deploy. Now we're going at about 30 meters per second. The main will deploy in 500 meters. Oh, I'm on sea level altitude. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense is this city texture and all of the forest models. That's slightly exciting, but sure. I guess we're landing in a city here, and the city is actually a forest. Cool. So we're going slightly fast at 8 meters per second. We might see the heat shield be destroyed. We may see something in the service bay be destroyed, but it should be otherwise okay. Heat shield was destroyed. However, the KER survived. Cool. So that looks really solid. Oh, I forgot to grab the crew report on the flight down. Oof. Absolutely oof. We're going to collect everything that we can here. We're going to grab a crew report. We're going to grab a temperature scan, an atmospheric pressure scan. These are not really worth gathering at this time, but we'll have Bob EVA and grab the EVA report. And apparently we can't climb back in because he drifted downward. Okay, there we go. And now let's recover that vessel. So that'll give us some science. I'm not sure exactly how much. It'll give us potentially a decent chunk. But definitely not as much as a moon orbit would have. We're definitely still going to be targeting a moon orbit here. But I want to make a few tweaks to our craft. We clearly need additional fuel in our upper stage. And I'd like to have a little bit more oomph in that bottom stage. And I think the way that we're going to do that is probably, 132.9 science isn't bad. We can hop in here, and we could definitely think about grabbing one of these things. Heavy rocketry would give us access to the skipper, to the kickback, to the Pollux. I mean, these are insane. We probably don't need quite that much. However, external fuel ducts. Giving us access to liquid fuel outer staging is, I think, really, really good. So we're going to grab that, and we're going to redesign this rocket to have just that little bit more oomph in the stage. And we can also get this a little bit more cost efficient as well, I think. So this is 22,000 right now, not even, closer to 21,000. I would like to boost this T400 up to a T800, which we now have access to. Then, and this is tall, I'm aware of this, we're going to ditch these guys. The SRBs we're getting rid of. The Delta Deluxe winglets and the swivel will take off for now. This is 1, 2, and 3 T800s. So we can definitely make that slightly more cost efficient. So we would do 1, 2. Do we really need a third, though? I think the answer to that is no. So we would take this off. We would only have the 2 T800s for now. And I would have this probably swap over to be like this. Okay. And then as far as coloration goes, we can have these be dark still. And this can be pure white, like that. Cool. And then our Delta Deluxe winglets, we would definitely still keep on here. And they would be approximately here. We might have to change their location, and I don't love how they're overlapping with that, but that's fine for now. And as far as our side boosters go, we're still going to heavy lift this, for sure. I'm going to go with a radial decoupler, a pair of them, and we're going to put them here. We're going to grab these fuel tanks. I'm going to have these be colored differently, perhaps gray and orange, to indicate that they are side boosters. And we would put in these guys here, and then an additional pair of swivel engines. Now, we are slightly more expensive. This is not shocking. I'm going to move this guy up to be about here. Okay, I do actually want to not do it like this, though. I want to move it like this, and then have this be what we move. So we would place it to be about there. Maybe slightly higher than this. More like here. Cool. And then we would definitely put on the hemispherical fuel tanks. So those would be, I believe, that's Rockamax. One of these. This size. Cool. And we would have those be either gray and orange or metal or just, no, I think, do I like that with the metal there? I kind of do. I kind of like that. I wish that we could change the color of our shroud here. I mean, we can disable the shroud. And we could have it be an orange or gray shroud. Yeah, we could have it be kind of like this. That seems reasonable. And have this be like the bear variant. So something like this. Now, this is going to be quite a lot of fuel, and lifting this is going to be exciting. I do want to move these down ever so slightly, like that. Okay, now we're going to need struts. So we're going to have a pair of struts down at the bottom, for sure. These are going to connect in like that and make sure we're rigid. Then we're going to also have a pair of struts up at the top, but these are going to connect from like, I think I'd prefer it from like here to about here. Yeah, that angle, it doesn't like that angle. So from about here to about here. I want it to be up above this engine and this joint. Okay, so something kind of like that, and then we would need to run fuel lines from the outside in. So that would run in something like that. The idea behind this, of course, is we burn out these stages, and then we burn out this stage. So this will be firing much higher in the atmosphere than these will be. Cool. So that would be the orbital science machine in this iteration. I don't love where I placed this. Can I just move you over like that? That's better. That's definitely better. Okay. I'm okay with it here, with them being somewhat offset because of the fuel duct nature of it. Okay, so obviously the staging is going to need work here. So we would move these guys to the bottom and move this guy to the bottom as well. And then these detach, and then that detaches. Once we get to the top of the atmosphere, this is 2,500 meters per second. So, I mean, this should be more than enough to maneuver around the moon. This should be plenty. And we're under 25K, so I think that's pretty solid. We know that our landing solution is solid from what we just experienced. And now we have access to liquid-fueled side boosters. I think that this is good. I do wish that we could, like, remove this gray stripe here. I mean, we could have this be something else, but... Okay, let's take a quick look here at our center of mass versus our aerodynamic overlay. Okay. As a hypothetical, I'm going to save this, but as a hypothetical, once these detach, it moves like that. But that shouldn't be a big deal. Realistically, that should not be a big deal. So I think this is fine. The aerodynamic overlay would need to be updated. But we could move these up or down a little bit and have them go like here, or even have them be like down here. What would that end up looking like? Yeah, and then these would detach. And it remains basically identical. Okay, I think it didn't properly update, but that's fine. I think this will fly reasonably well, and it should be fine. So next episode, we're going to go orbit the moon in this thing. We still have plenty of cash, and we're going to go get additional science. So that'll be fine. This is nice and cheap, too, for a moon orbiter. I do not hate that. I do want to move these up ever so slightly, and we're going to have to turn off snapping for that. So I want these to be more like here. Okay, cool. With that, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, and in fact, I kind of want this to be... Yeah, we'll have it be like this, so it's a little bit differentiated. It's not really differentiated, is it? But something along the lines of this. This feels like overkill, but we know from experience that this is like 1,500, and now it's like 2,500. So that's solid. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, James, Shadowwolf, MLHan80, Rogue Corvid, Kentogan, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Anna the Elephant, Soccerman12UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.